Welcome to Conversations with Kit and Alex. Today, we're going to talk about fixed and growth mindsets and variations on those themes. Alex, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So, hi everyone. I'm Alex, certified high performance and mindset coach. And what I do is empower high achieving women who want it all but feel burnt out, exhausted, and unfulfilled to banish the hustle and design a life where career, relationships, and well being are all integrated into one.
It's so important. I love that you do that. And I'm Kit Cassingham, longevity coach with Live in Focused Energy. I believe age is a mindset, and I love working with people, helping them explore their mindsets, to realize their possibilities, and to generate the energy and desire to live their best lives. Longevity isn't so much how long you live as how well you live. And how well you live is influenced by why you do what you do all day, every day, in all areas of life. So, in addition to helping you explore your mindset, I'll help you discover and activate your why and purpose. So, with that, let's dive into this conversation, which the more I thought about it and researched it, the more excited I got we were going to be talking about this
It's a
today.
cool topic. Yeah.
Well, and I see this play, of course, I see this play in all conversations in all areas of life. I went to dinner last night and I had a hard time participating in the conversation because I was spending so much time watching, going, oh, there's a fixed mindset. Oh, they just opened up, they grow.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I would like to open the conversation with a quote from Carol Dweck's book, Mindset. Carol says, the most important thing about getting rid of a mindset is not just letting go of the thing that you know doesn't serve you, but also replacing it with something that will serve you moving forward.
Mm, That's
I
beautiful.
think, yeah, it's good stuff. She ought to write a book.
Now, I think it's a great quote because anytime we go to remove something, it leaves a void, right? It leaves a vacuum.
And
And
nature
that
doesn't
vacuum,
like a
exactly,
vacuum. So it fills in with something. So choose what you fill it with. Yeah.
exactly, absolutely.
And so do you think we need to start replacing the thing we want to get rid of or minimize so that we don't create the void before we get the new habit or mindset in there?
I don't think it's that simple. I don't think it's just, especially when we're talking about fixed mindset. If we have a fixed mindset, that's taken years of conditioning. So,
Develop.
it's a learned behavior. So it's not something that if you have a fixed mindset around whether or not you're able to do something, around whether you're smart enough, good enough, intelligent enough, whatever the case may be, it's not like you're going to be able to take that fixed part and put something in. It's it takes
Intention.
it has to be pulled apart, right? Because you have to go in and you have to understand the reason why you have that fixed mindset. What are the things that you've heard from your parents, from your teachers, from society at large, right? Well, women
From
can't
your
do this.
religious leaders,
Men,
right?
exactly, right? Men can't do that. Why? Right? And it's not that women can do everything that men can do and men can do everything that women do because we're complementary. But it is about what are the things that we've been taught that
Mm-hmm.
we can dismantle for ourselves so that we start to move into more of that growth mindset instead of that fixed mindset. Fixed mindset, to me, the image that comes to mind is a horse with blinders on, right? So why do horses have blinders on? especially like if you think about the horses in Central Park, for example, they're all walking around, they've got the blinders on.
Right.
It's because like that, they don't get freaked out by everything that comes at them
Right.
sideways, right?
Right.
So fixed mindset to me is like that. It's living your life with a belief system, whether or not it serves you, that keeps you on a given track.
And as you started that, I all of a sudden came up with the image of the three monkeys with their
Oh, yeah,
eyes, ears, and mouth closed. And I go,
yeah,
there's another example of a fixed mindset.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I think it's dismantling things little by little and taking baby steps towards, because change is uncomfortable, right? And
Well, and a fixed mindset avoids change.
absolutely. So it has to be done carefully,
Mm.
um, and within, with the right circumstances, with the right people, with, the right support system.
So I'm going to say that I have three concepts here that I'm going to maybe use interchangeably.
Yeah.
So we said let's talk about fixed and growth mindset. And that led me also to go, well, there's a closed and an open mindset. And then I remembered Simon Sinek's book, The Finite Game, which is a finite and infinite mindset or game, he calls it. Do I have, yeah, the finite game. Um, so I'll kind of weave concepts in as we talk that some of them with Simon's stuff, it's much more specific to infinite and finite than the than it is to fixed and closed, for example.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Okay. So do you want to get us started and take us through what you see as fixed mindset?
Yeah, and I'm going to start off by saying that learning about this mindset stuff really impacts your personal development,
Mm.
your ability to learn, and your success. Um, if you have a growth mindset, you're more interested in learning and growing and succeeding. I mean, I guess everybody wants to succeed. The fixed mindset, the finite mindset is all about the win. Don't talk to me about failure. Um, and I always come back to my Camino experience for fixed and growth mindset experiences. It was such a vivid demonstration. Some of the fixed people were annoyed that the weather was rainy on a certain day or hot on a day and mad. It's like, no, it's not what I want. So what? That's what it is. And then there are the women who were walking alone and pretty much stayed on their own. And I saw that as a very much of a growth mindset, the ability to do it on your own. I saw men walking alone. What is the difference? I think the two people I'm thinking of, it was the way in which they did it. There was a man who is walking his Camino for the second time, and he wanted to recreate the first experience the same way. It was most upset when things were different. And I see that as a fixed mindset. And then there was this Swiss woman who loved, and I don't know if she'd walked this before, but she just loved the experience. She would love talking to people and then dissolving and going on her own way. I see that very much as a growth mindset, open, infinite. I see a growth mindset as wanting to improve yourself, your career, your position in life. And I don't mean like status, but just being more of who you can be. You love learning when you have a growth mindset. Uh, and I think when you have a growth mindset, you are improving. It's one of the keys to success for successful aging is having a growth mindset. because you're open to learning new ways of taking care of yourself. You're willing to pay attention to the changes, improvements in medicine and science, rather than blocking and going, nope, my doctor told me 70 years ago that this is the way it is. And I know people who are like that. It's like,
And we know
yeah,
doctors are infallible.
oh, aren't they? And doctors can have closed mindsets and
Yeah.
mindsets. So if they didn't learn it in med school, it doesn't exist.
Mm.
And they would never forget something they learned in med school. Oh, I shouldn't be so snarky, being one who forgets stuff all the time.
So do I. So do I. Yeah.
So what kind of experiences do you have that illustrate and define these two mindsets?
Well, I think I want to dive in a little bit and build on what you said about what a growth mindset is.
Okay.
Because when we're talking about a fixed mindset, you talked about having to prove yourself. You talked about there's judgment, right? You're judging instead of learning, which is a huge, huge difference between
Or
growth
being
and fixed mindset.
right, right.
Um, there is a need for control with a fixed mindset that doesn't exist in the growth mindset. Making mistakes is just unacceptable. You don't do that because when you make mistakes, when we have a fixed mindset, intelligence is what it is, it's fixed, right? You're given this much intelligence and you make do with it, right?
And the same with your skills, by the way.
Yes, yeah. Let's not forget that. So when you make mistakes, then there's that, oh my God, I'm going to look stupid. Oh my God, people are going to say stuff. People are going to talk. People are going to, right? So all of this angst around being right is a hallmark of that fixed mindset. Whereas with growth, a lot of what you talked about in terms of learning, right, versus judging, that forever student kind of approach, right? To me, growth mindset is curiosity, it's possibilities, it's giving
Opportunity.
yourself, yeah, absolutely, and giving yourself the chance to try different things, to learn different things, and not in the context of wanting to be right or wanting to do it right, but more in the context of, hey, I wonder what's going to happen when I do that. Right. And sometimes it's a beautiful success and sometimes it's a downright flop.
Or as I like to say, it's another learning opportunity.
That's that's exactly what it is. But the good thing about having that growth mindset is that who you are, you give yourself the chance to develop into the best of who you are over time. You're not stuck in this bubble or in this box because there are no walls with the growth mindset. You can grow into anyone that you want to grow into and have all of the amazing adventures and all of the amazing experiences that you want because you're not afraid to try things.
Right. You embrace the adventure
Yeah,
and the unknown, the
yeah,
challenges. You
yeah.
embrace.
It's funny because when I moved to China in 2017, January 2017, I went to China for work. And people were like, "You're going where? What are you, crazy?" And I'm like, "Why? Why not?"
Exciting.
Like,
Yeah.
and I was in a relationship. I had been with my boyfriend for about 5 years already. And he was like, "Go." So being able to make those decisions when you have the right support system is also key, right? Because it's a lot easier to go to China when you have a partner who supports you than it is when you have a partner who says, "What are you, crazy?"
If you
Right?
leave, I'm out of here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But going there was like, I'm going to meet new people. I'm going to learn new language. That never happened because learning Chinese is hard as hell. Um, I'm going to try new foods. I'm going to visit new places. I'm going to learn a new culture. So guess you could look at fixed versus growth as fixed as my world's going to fall apart. What's the worst thing that can happen? And let me focus on that versus growth being what's the best thing that can happen from this experience?
Well, and if you had a fixed mindset, would you have even gone?
I don't know.
You don't have a fixed, didn't have a fixed mindset about that
Not
anyway.
for that.
Yeah.
Not for that. And I have a fixed mindset about other things, um, but not about, thankfully, not about that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. In addition to being curious, by the way, I think people with growth mindsets or open and infinite mindsets also are more collaborative.
mm,
They're and creative, which I think is exciting. And I don't know that that means all creative and collaborative people have an open mindset, but
yeah,
the tendency is there
yeah.
to work together with others and try things, do things differently.
And not feel threatened by what somebody brings to the party.
Right,
When you have a
right.
fixed mindset, your main goal is to seem like you're the smartest person in the room,
Yep, yep,
right? So somebody coming in with new ideas, with fresh thinking can be threatening.
very much so. Yeah,
Whereas when you have that growth mindset, it's like, yeah, bring it. The more good ideas we have, the greater things that we can build and the bigger the things that we can do.
right. So people with a fixed mindset are holding on to their beliefs and unwilling to consider alternative viewpoints or modify their opinions. While people with an open mindset are very willing to explore and to drop the judgment, uh, to see diversity as a good spice in life.
Mm, mm,
And that diversity can be race, creed, food, colors, or color, gender. Age is a diversity issue.
mm,
And a growth mindset is going to accept that people of all ages are welcome in their lives,
mm.
I think.
Yeah. So I agree. And earlier you asked me about an experience with fixed and growth mindset. And there is one place where I've actually grown out of fixed mindset into growth mindset.
Oh, do tell.
And that is, if you had asked me, or if you had told me 10 years ago that I would quit my corporate gig to coach, I would have laughed you out of my house because that wasn't me. I didn't do that, right? My life was corporate, and that was where I was meant to be. And then through my personal development journey, through different things that happened in life, little by little, I started to think, well, maybe I can do this. And that's the part of the process is believing in yourself that you can do something different, that you can be someone different, that you can have different experiences, right? And 3 years ago, I quit. My God, it was already 3 years. 4 years, I guess 4 years ago. I don't remember when it was. I quit my corporate gig so that I could coach full time. I never in a million years would have ever thought that that was in the cards for me.
And I guess similarly, I wouldn't have thought about it as a fixed mindset when I was going into college, figuring out what I wanted to do, initially I wanted to go to an interior design school, and my mom wouldn't let me. She goes, "Nope, our family goes to college and we become scientists," which is pretty funny because only two of us have any science in our background now. Um, but I avoided hospitality things, that touchy feely stuff. It's like,
Mm.
no, no, I don't want to go there. I don't want to be that typical woman who takes care of people. So I
But that's your
really resist.
life. That's where you
Well,
are now.
that's what it became.
Yeah.
My college job was working in the catering kitchen. And for the neighbors, I would help them cater parties. So I was taking care of people, but it took me a long time out of college to realize, no, that is my strong suit. I read What Color is Your Parachute to help me figure out what I would do when I left the computer programming world.
Okay.
And and then on a trip, happened to spend a lot of time with an entrepreneur, and that just the combination of having read What Color is Your Parachute, having decided to leave computer programming, and spending time with that particular couple, literally woke up one morning and go, I'm going to
Oh
be
my God.
a bed and breakfast innkeeper.
Yeah.
I'd never been in a bed and breakfast before, but I could spell it. B and B.
Yeah. You know, you talk about your mom who said, in this family, we're scientists. And I think a lot of our ideas come from our parents, our teachers, what society tells us we need to feel, think, do, be, whatever, right? And depending on the level of openness of the input, I think that says a lot about whether or not we then go on to espouse a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. But one of the things that came up for me as I was reading the book is that I was like, oh my God, I have an open mindset in those things, or growth mindset in those things, and a totally fixed mindset in these other things. And to me, it was you either are one or the other. I didn't realize that within me, I could be both, or I could have both, depending on the situation.
Mindset is very much a spectrum of personality, or it's a spectrum. So
Yeah.
we slide up and down. We live at extremes depending on the situation. So it's to say that one's good and one's bad shortchanges your life's experiences. Because I think sometimes mindset may be there to help protect you and save your life. If you didn't have a fixed mindset about falling great distances, you'd just be jumping out of airplanes and trees and off of cliffs without any concern. That may be a silly exaggeration, but I think my point may be made that it does have us at least stop and go, all right, how can I get down this rock wall safely? Jumping, it doesn't look like a good option. Now, Simon, I think, would say finite mindset does close you down, and an infinite mindset opens possibilities for you. That's, I guess he's expressing his beliefs about living, but an infinite mindset makes life much more interesting and flavorful, and more adventure and possibilities and options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're a little girl and you hear girls don't do math, right?
You don't try
And
it.
you hear it repeatedly,
Yeah.
time and time and time again, that forges you into that fixed girls don't do math thing, right? So being able to have the right input is really critical. And we don't get a
Absolutely.
choice when we're young, right? I mean, we have our family,
Very
they
rare.
kind of dictate.
It's a rare
how,
child who goes,
right?
no, I'm good at this. I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But as
Yeah.
adults, it's our responsibility to look at ourselves and keep the things that serve us and get rid of the things that don't.
So here's the catch to that thought. If you have a fixed mindset, you're unaware of what's not working for you. You may easily play the victim
True.
because it doesn't occur to you that you could change your mindset or your position, your perspective, and improve the situation.
Mhm. So what I would say to, and I fully agree with you 100%. I think the difference maker is when we hear things that bother us, when we react strongly to things that people say that are negative things, right? Our responsibility is to say, well, I don't think that's true, but what if it were? Because that
Absolutely.
starts the exploration. Because a lot of my self-awareness came from people repeatedly telling me, well, you're like this, you always do this, right? And it's
Did
like,
that
well,
ruffle your
no, I
that
don't.
ruffle your fur a little bit?
Yeah. And I was like, no, I don't. And then I'll, you think about it and you're like, well, maybe I kind of do. What's that all about? Right. And until you start to get to strengthen and build that muscle of questioning yourself,
Your curiosity.
right? Then it's important to listen to how the world reacts to how you present yourself.
I totally agree. And I'm still going to say you can do that most easily if you already have at least a seedling of growth mindset living within you.
Mm,
Because if you're fixed and you're shut down, you're going to hear those people as just being critical. They don't know what they're talking about. They're stupid, and you'll have all kinds of reactions,
yeah.
but none of them will become self-reflective. They'll all be defensive.
But do you believe that people are 100% one or the other?
No,
Or
I
are
don't.
we a mix of both?
I think we're a mix of both. I do think that some people tend to be almost exclusively one or the other, but generally there's a give and take.
Mm.
But no, I know people who are pretty well fixed,
I
and
know a couple
mm,
people who are too.
yeah, I bet you do. And they're probably sitting around the breakfast table or dinner table going, there's some people who just think everything's possible.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I saw one reference to mindsets as in relating to goals, that growth mindset people have adaptable goals, while fixed
Mm.
mindset people have, well, fixed goals that can't change. And can you imagine the disappointment for the people with a fixed goal when it doesn't happen,
Yeah.
often outside their control?
Mm.
I really love it when people can adapt and say, oh, I had this dream and I wanted it to happen. And oh, well, it's not going to.
Yeah.
I definitely used a growth mindset when I was on my Italian walk pilgrimage
Okay.
last year. The first half of the walk beat me up. I'd been
Oh, I
cocky and
remember that.
hadn't trained enough. And I've told you this story before. Um, I, with great difficulty, realized I couldn't do the full plan.
Mm.
I had some friends say, oh, but you really wanted to. I sure did. And I want to live another day to go back and do the second
Yeah.
half. I did not think I would thrive.
Mm.
So that was accept that I was too exhausted to continue and adapt my plans accordingly.
And building on what you're saying in terms of goals and having fixed goals, having goals is awesome, right? Because we need to have something to shoot for. But we also, as humans, understand that life sometimes makes its own decisions, right? The universe
Right.
says, you know what? You need to learn a little something, something here. So
Little humility.
here's a learning opportunity for you, right? And that sometimes will derail us. And it doesn't mean that because we didn't achieve the goal in the years that we wanted to achieve the goal, or the weeks or the months or whatever, that it's not achievable. Maybe
And
it's
it
a
doesn't
wake-up
mean you're a
call to
failure.
say,
And
exactly.
you're not a failure either.
No, exactly. It's more like, well, maybe you can't go about it this way, but can you go about it that way? Or how about, what if you had 3 more weeks or 3 more months, or right,
Or one more person.
being able to have that flexibility to still keep the goal in mind, but being more fluid in how we get there.
Sometimes I think those changes in our goals that are, quotes, forced on us are ways of protecting us. That
Mm,
if we reach that goal, something awful could happen to us. Or it's a way of introducing us to even better opportunities
yeah,
by getting us to swerve and
mm,
dip and jump stuff.
absolutely. Totally agree.
And the way you look at it makes all the difference in the world as to whether you're happy or sad or angry about that event.
Yeah, totally agree.
Embracing uncertainty is another hallmark of somebody with an infinite mindset or
Yeah.
growth and open mindset. I think change is inevitable. Life is change.
Mm,
So when you can embrace it, then it's a lot easier. I know that we planned on moving to this residential cruise ship.
mm,
And after we sold our house and everything we owned, the cruise ship announced it wasn't leaving. So we had to embrace that uncertainty of what we'll do next and create a new alternative for ourselves. And it's been a wonderful experience.
yeah. You've been lucky in terms of, how you've been able to, not lucky because it's not luck, but how you've navigated and the support that you've received from the community around you.
Yes, the community has been very supportive, and Randy and I are in this together.
Mm,
And we both knew there were possibilities of things not working out quite right, and we forged forward anyway.
yeah,
And we just keep what do I want to say, dancing with the uncertainty. If
yeah,
it wants us to swing this way, we will, and if it wants to flip us around its arm or over its head, it being the situation,
yeah,
we'll go for it and
yeah.
hope to land beautifully.
You know what? And sometimes you don't even land beautifully, you just land. And landing
Yes,
in itself is enough.
that is the success. You didn't go flinging out into space. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, what I've made a bunch of fun notes. Oh, here's an interesting pointer came across, that this growth or open or infinite mindset fosters more effective communication
Mm,
by giving you the interest and ability to active listening, to considering different viewpoints, and engaging in constructive dialogue.
mm.
I I think that's so fascinating. I mean, I don't always do as good as I'd like. For example, I keep stepping on you trying to be part of the conversation. I interject a little too much, which isn't active listening, but I'm learning.
It's all good.
I think that we can bond with people more when we have that interest in communicating more effectively. And that seems valuable to me.
Yeah.
That's what the world's about.
Yeah. And I think at the root of that is that element of curiosity,
Good point.
wanting to learn, wanting to know more, being interested in others instead of being focused on our own belly button. Because the fixed mindset is very much focused on our belly button, where the growth mindset is more focused on other people's belly buttons.
You're making me giggle.
So wanting to bring new things in our lives is part of that growth, that whole growth
Yeah.
mindset.
It's letting go of that resistance to change
Mm-hmm.
and embracing the change.
Yeah.
And ideally contributing to it. And once you realize the world's changing, why not contribute to it? Use curiosity and creativity to make it more of what you want,
Yeah.
or what others around you also want. Because it's not just about us. It is also about the friends and family and other people in our lives.
Definitely. And when we embrace that change, then we can decide what should change. It doesn't mean that things aren't going to come in that are going to completely turn our world upside down. But if we know that change is inevitable, then why not proactively change things instead of waiting for something to fall on our head that's going to force us to change?
Or force us to be miserable about the change we're resisting.
Exactly. Exactly.
I shouldn't say it forces us to be miserable. It allows us to be miserable.
True.
Um, I also came across a note that said a fixed mindset, people with a fixed mindset are less adaptable and less resilient. Um, I came across the concept of resilience when in my EMT days. I took a class at a conference about resilience and was fascinated by it and the things that contribute to a resilient EMT in that particular case, but person in general. It and it's the same things we talk about in living a good life or a long life. It's the community. It's
Mm.
reaching out to people to talk. It's giving yourself grace, taking a break, sit down and put your feet up for a moment. And if a certain call really wigged you out, then find people to talk about it with. Take a little time off. Those are the things that build resilience. And if you have a fixed mindset, you're less likely to do that. You're just going to barrel ahead and grit your teeth and clench your fists, which isn't good for us or good for
Grin
your
and bear it.
parents. Yeah. In fact, at dinner last night, one of the people was talking about in her early EMT days that one of the calls they had, I won't go into details, but there was a 5-year-old who had been killed. Well, she
Mm.
had a 5-year-old at home, and she was doing okay, but she turned to, I'll say, her boss to say, wow, this has kind of flipped me out a little bit. And he kind of stood up straight and said, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. And that is when her PTSD kicked in around that. It's taken her years to come, and her 5-year-old is, you know, has her own older than 5-year-old child. So it's been a long time. But the fact she still talks about it tells you that there was a big
It
scar, a
impacted
big
her. Yeah.
dent, a big impact. And maybe that's the best reason to learn to work out yourself out of a fixed mindset so that you can be resilient to all those blows and whims and that come into life.
But building on that, I think too, it's important for us to know that there is such a thing as too much resilience. I think that that whole keep calm and carry on is good up to a point. when your whole life is fallen apart, or you feel like your whole life is fallen apart, there is that moment when you need to step back and just kind of reevaluate everything. You need to step back and take a breather, step back and take a break. Because in those moments, when you just keep driving and keep going, and it becomes toxic and it becomes counterproductive. So resilience is good as long as it doesn't tip into that toxic side.
See, I think what you have described, though, is not resilience, it's rigidity. Because if you're resilient, you will stop. You'll relax, you'll take a break, you'll talk to people, you'll have that community around you. You'll so I don't think there is such a thing as too much resilience. I think we can trick ourselves into thinking that being rigid is resilient. But I think rigid is fixed, closed, finite.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
So I think resilience is infinite because it keeps you connected to people, to your heart, to your soul,
Mm,
taking care of yourself. But
yeah.
it's me.
It's all that matters.
Let's see. Well, and we do have setbacks and failures, so
Yep.
resilience helps with that too.
No doubt.
What else? Have we covered all we need to, or is there more that
Well, I thought I could go over just quickly how people can cultivate a growth mindset.
good? Do.
Just quick, not even 5 minutes. So I think there are 5 different things that people can do, and obviously at their own pace, however it feels right for them. But the first one is, when you have a fixed mindset about something, believe that that can change. Believe that you have some control over whether or not you stay in that fixed mindset or not, right? Things aren't always set in stone. You can dispute anything that you've learned, anything that's been hammered into your head, right? Who says it's true? Who says it's right? Right? So believe that you have that ability to change and that things can change. The other thing is self-acceptance, right? Believe in yourself and give yourself room to grow. Fixed mindset to me feels like a cage, right? It's a box that we're made to fit in. And it's generally not a box of our choosing. So believing in ourselves and believing that we can change, I think, is part of that journey from fixed to growth mindset. We talked about this a lot tonight. Instead of approaching things from a win-lose situation, approach things as it's an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to grow.
Win-win.
It's right. So, because win-lose can be heartbreaking. But when we approach something as, I may not get the result that I want, but either way, I'm going to learn something that's going to help. Huge difference. And definitely starting to dip more into the growth versus fixed mindset. We talked about this also. Be open to criticism or feedback. I do believe that, especially when it's in your immediate circle, for the most part, there are always exceptions, but for the most part, when people give you feedback, they give you feedback because they want to help, not because they want to hurt.
Even if they want to hurt, it helps if you listen. At least
True.
consider. Sometimes it is meant to
Yes.
hurt, so you have to evaluate it.
Yeah,
Okay, back to you.
absolutely. And there's a way to give feedback, right? I used to always say when I was in the corporate world, it does me no good if you tell me I'm an idiot. That's just hurtful, and it doesn't help me to change. It doesn't help me to grow. But
What
if
do
you
I do
can,
with that? Yeah.
exactly, there's nothing you can do with that because it's just a person's opinion. So being mindful of who gives the feedback and how, but listening for those kernels to say, is there any truth in there? Right? And questioning ourselves and questioning our behaviors help us to bring us more into that open mindset. And you know what? If we come to the realization at the end of the day that what the person said is not true, who cares?
Bravo for us for having explored the input.
And if it was said in a way that they wanted to be hurtful, that's on them.
Right.
It's very easy for us to say, thank you for this gift. I choose not to accept it. Right?
Yeah.
We have a choice. We can either take it and internalize it, or we can just refuse it. We don't have to take it. And then the very last thing is to allow ourselves to be challenged by taking risks, by doing things that make us uncomfortable, by trying things that we've never tried before. Hell, move to China if that's if that's what it takes, right?
Take a vacation to China, which is also scary the first time you do it.
It can be, right? But really doing things that make us a bit uncomfortable will help us to learn more about ourselves. And the more we do these things and we realize that we didn't die from the experience, the more we're able to have more of these experiences and learn more about ourselves and understand that 9 times out of 10, there's nothing hurtful. So that's kind of what I wanted to share, just because I didn't want to, leave it as an open-ended thing.
I like that. And as you were talking, I realized the logo I designed for conversations
Oh, it's the
is
bird in
the
the cage.
bird cage with the two birds taking out off, saying you don't have to be caged.
Right.
Yes, you can go back to that if you want, but you don't have to lock the door. It can be a place of comfort and safety until you take off again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's wonderful. So,
Cool.
um, let me see if I have any other. No, I think we've covered it pretty
Good.
well. I mean, we could go on and on for a long time, I think.
So the only other thing that I would say is, if you have not read Mindset,
By
please
Carol
do
Dweck.
yourself a favor, pick up the book.
Yeah.
It's probably one that had the most impact on me of all the books that I've read.
Yeah. Well, and I'll add that also Simon Sinek's book, The Infinite Game, also is powerful.
I'm going to pick that
And
up.
I'm reading a book right now that doesn't seem like it would apply to you or me or my financial advisor who I recommended it to. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality.
Oh, okay.
Now, I have believed for 25 years that every businessman is in hospitality.
Mm,
The way you treat your guests, customers, patients, the way you treat your staff, your business partners, your life partner, your children, all of that is with hospitality. Carol's book talks about it, Simon's book talks about it, but it's a really wonderful book.
mm.
Highly, in fact, Simon Sinek recommended it just in passing. So I downloaded the sample. And while I was reading it, I saw my financial advisor in the pages. So I wrote him and said, oh, I was just thinking of you, and here's his book. He wrote back and said, thanks for the book. A recommendation. I just downloaded it. But
Oh,
it
nice.
really is, it's about leadership, really.
Yeah.
And this guy's a restaurateur. So he's using his restaurant experiences to illustrate, demonstrate this stuff. In fact, some of his skills got him in the stuff he was applying, got him into Chateau a relay, say that.
Chateau roulé.
Shut. Yeah, that's
Okay.
that. Which is quite an accomplishment.
Yeah.
So anyway, take us out, Alex.
Well, this has been awesome. Definitely one of my favorite topics. And just as a reminder, my name is Alex Neal. I am a certified high performance and mindset coach. And what I do is empower high achieving women who want it all, but feel burnt out, exhausted, and unfulfilled to banish the hustle and design a life where career, relationships, and well being all live in harmony.
Lovely. And I'm Kit Cassingham, longevity coach at Live in Focused Energy. Since I believe age is a mindset, I believe I can help you explore your mindset to realize your possibilities, to generate the energy and desire to live your best life. And part of that is to understand what your why is, what your purpose is. So I'll help you discover and activate those items also.
Thanks.
So until next time, thanks for joining us. Later.
Thank you.